My name is Ben Chai. I like Cobra Kai. Social magnetism is my thing in life and business. It helps you win. Writer, author, actor too. Speaker, trainer, media guru, entrepreneur, dancer, marketing king, technology, property, and broadcasting are many of the skills that I'm known for to help people around me soar and score in transforming their dreams to reality before they get too old and hit senility. I'm in Troy and Tony's app right now to reach more people that I can endow with a life roadmap that they can use for them to live the life they choose.
Bravo, very well intro. Very good intro for who our special guest is today, leading us into Ben Chai, coming out of London at the moment, right?
Absolutely, London. It's midnight. Boom.
Born and raised?
Yes, I was born in East London and raised mostly around there and North London for 10 years. Then I went to Singapore for 6 years, and then I came back to the UK, the United Kingdom, or England.
All right, and
which are different. United Kingdom's a collection. England is just one part.
Yep, people have to know these things, right? Sometimes we don't know.
Just helping my American brothers and sisters, and I guess your broadcast goes worldwide. So just in case,
it does. But we have a big American audience. But you know what? Here he is, you guys. It's really awesome, Ben. You help people become socially magnetic. So can we talk about a little bit of attributes that make people socially magnetic? Because you are socially magnetic. I feel like there's never a dull moment with you. Really, it has to just always be a good time, and that's what it is in life, right? Just keeping it going, keeping it just the energy alive to make things happen.
Yeah, I mean, social magnetism is the way you connect with people, and social, working with people, and magnetism, attracting them to you rather than going out and hustling left, right, and center and pushing your stuff on other people. Why not just make it, kind of you approachable so that they want to come and talk to you and reach out to you. For example, how did this whole thing happen? Did I come and say, Troy, I see you've got a broadcast going. I've got to be in it.
No, we reached out to you and you jumped at the opportunity with just great energy that we loved, and we jumped on together and we came together with this.
So it attracted your vibe got attracted to my vibe. That's the whole what social magnetism is about. And the way you do that, there are three concepts. Is you really have to understand yourself and love yourself to pieces. And the second bit is you have to give tons of value to the people around you, because when you love yourself so much, it just automatically overflows into other people. Yeah. And
absolutely.
The third component is there are some people who, I don't know what's going on in their head. Maybe there are different things, but you need to walk away from them, because they create tons of dramas that you get sucked into, or they're constantly using you for whatever, but they don't actually appreciate you for being the wonderful, the amazing, the spectacular Troy.
Absolutely. Getting rid of all that extra fuzz that gets in the way of the true self.
Well, really other people who try and pull you down. We call them crocodiles.
Crocodiles. So they definitely
don't
exist.
Swim with a crocodile. You might want to help the crocodile. See, some of us, because you're a giver, I can tell you're a giver, you'll want to help the crocodile. You want to help the crocodile have clean teeth, right? Mm-hmm. So you try sticking your hand in to give the crocodile, brush his teeth, he'll snap your arm off, right?
Absolutely.
Some crocodiles will do it straight away, and others will do it slowly, like a little mosquito taking bits out of you over time.
Very, very, very well put. And don't, that's a very good way to put it. Don't swim with the alligators, the crocodiles, man.
Yeah.
Don't.
Alligators, crocodiles. I mean, they've both got big mouths, right?
Birds
No.
of a feather flock together, man. I don't mean it.
So go for it, Troy. I feel like you're in the music or something industry. You look like that.
I play music. I play music. Yeah, I play guitar, and I love listening to songs and integrating them into my everyday routine. I've been thinking a lot these days about how music, maybe because we've been quarantined and been indoors, but without music, you can take away. It's certainly not a great thing to take away our surroundings and our atmospheres, but with music, you can really escape and let the mind sort of get into the state that you need it to get to in order to take care of things, right? Because even though we're still taking care of business every day.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's part of our life, whatever that business means for us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, that's a little bit about social magnetism. We can get much deeper. The TED talk I gave gives you those three aspects. And there's a book that I wrote called Social Magnetism, which takes this. Oh, look at that! There. This is why you never use a background in Zoom, because when you try and show people stuff, it always vanishes.
You don't need to change it. We'll piece it in we can go ahead and piece it in.
Look, I'll change my wall. There you go. So there's the wall. This is social magnetism.
Social magnetism.
Yeah.
Pick it up, you guys. We'll make sure to provide the link so that people can pick it up, because I'm sure that it's going to be something they want to check out.
Yeah, so that takes you much deeper than the TED talk, and obviously life and connecting with people. You'll work out, especially if you're a little bit autistic like myself. So I had to learn how to actually connect with people. I also being not really understanding social cues. I had to, so not understanding that, part of that, I was bullied a lot, blah, 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 blah. You create this kind of vicious cycle. So you get bullied a lot, you get isolated. So because you don't think people like you much, so you get bullied even more. And then you have less self-confidence in you, that kind
right.
of.
It builds a thought pattern where you start to blame the self for sort of arbitrary factors of social dynamics.
You got it. Any way you want. Troy's got it.
That's really awesome, Ben. So did you study this? Can we talk a little bit about how you got to this point with this way of thinking, this method of living? How did you get to this place? Was it an incremental process? Like you said, it was a over time with learning how to adapt with nature, sort of like all of us, right? So what did you study? I know you're an educated man, and
So you're absolutely right. It was over time and just experience getting things wrong, really. There's a wonderful book by I think it was Andrew Carnegie. Was it Andrew Carnegie who wrote How to Make Friends and Influence People? So this is kind of a little bit of an evolution of that, because he never wrote his book for today's society with all the social media that happens around us and so on. So
that's a brilliant book.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. It really is a wonderful book, and I can't extol it enough. So the rest of that was learned over time. And again, we write these books for our time and situation and environment. And that's kind of that evolution. Also, it takes you through exercises, to help you understand what your self-worth is. Because a lot of people, they go up with very low self-worth, and they don't know, how can I give back to Troy? I mean, he's just an awesome guy, but I'm.
I understand. I understand.
What to do,
I can identify with a similar way of thinking. I try to provide all the value I can in one big gulp, right? You have it, take your pill and swallow it type of thing. I just try to give it all. And I see that and I feel that, you want to give 100% to everyone. And I understand that. That makes sense. And a lot of people, it's all about understanding that sometimes you just have to be yourself, and not everybody will reciprocate the way you might think. But I just try to think that as long as I'm being true to myself, and if it doesn't reciprocate the way that I might like, I have to think, well, maybe we just can't please everyone, right? And it just sort of seeds through the people that, back to what we were saying with the crocodiles and everything of that nature. You want to surround yourself with people who encourage you to be exactly who you want to be.
Yeah. Who do you want to be?
Yourself, right? I mean, yourself or...
Well, that's the other question. I love this one. What recently somebody, we were just riffing over this question, who are you? Like, what does it mean? I mean, if anyone's seen that film, Anger Management with Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah, that's a great classic film.
Yeah. But in that scene where Jack Nicholson is asking Adam Sandler, so we'd like you to tell us, who are you? So Adam Sandler says, well, I think he was, what was he, some kind of office person, salesperson, he drew diagrams, wasn't he? He's for concept.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jack Nicholson says, well, no, I didn't ask you what you did as a job. I asked you who you are. So he says, well, I have a girlfriend, I have a flat, and Jack Nicholson said, no, I didn't ask you what you have. I asked you who you are. So and he's saying, well, I'm like everybody else. I have this character. No, I didn't ask you about your personality. So then Adam Sandler just gets really angry, right? But I think that's one of the hardest questions to answer. Like, I mean, what would you want? And how many times do we get told as kids, like if you're struggling with dating and so on, and your parents say, just go and be yourself. Like,
right.
Should I be like my son to my mother? Shall I be like my mates, Troy? Shall I be like when I'm talking to my boss? Do you know what I mean? Our characters are so different. Here's the thing. I know various people, they've gone and seen, gone on some course and suddenly they know who they are. But equally, 50 or 60 or 70% of the people on that course still have no clue who they are, I think it's just over time you get to understand your core values and what you'll stand up for and what you won't stand up for. But it's kind of like an ongoing development as you educate yourself more and you become more and so who we are today. I don't know if we're going to be the same person in a decade from now, for example. Right. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know how you are. You don't how old you are. You don't have to tell me. But I'm sure 10 years ago, you look back on yourself 10 years ago and thinking, yeah, I didn't quite get that right, or I was a bit of an idiot then. I wasn't good to the people around me. And then you look 10 years on from there and you think, yeah, I'm still, even that, your perspective of who you've now moved on to. And you look at your stories and then, I wasn't that experienced. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
I absolutely do. I can think back on a month ago, a year ago, where I'm always saying it's always changing. It's a constant changing thing. Hey, Ben, can I ask you this? So let's say...
Yeah, sure. Please do.
Let's say somebody comes up to you and says, Ben, I've tried my hardest to get out there and be a social person, but there's a lot of barriers. How do you approach them and their situation, right? Because everybody's situation is different and everybody's reason for being antisocial is the word I'll use. We all have different crutches that build over time for different reasons. At the same time, they can be similar, like in nature, but it's always a different thing, right? There's no cookie cutter approach to our life and our problems. So how do you approach your clients?
Interesting that you say there's no cookie cutter to your, one size fits all, because isn't that what some of these people on stages treat people like? Like, hey, I'm going to give you advice. I'm going to show you how to grow your Instagram, or I'm going to show you how you make $1 million in 2 days, and everybody, if you just follow me, you will do it. Like, isn't that the cookie cutter, the one size fits all kind of approach that
They try to give that approach.
that you're saying that doesn't exist, Ben? And I'm saying, yes, Roy, Troy, Anthony, you are so right. There is no one size fits all. And here's the reason why. Some of us, we're all on a scale. We're all on a scale of social magnetism, for example, but we're all on the scale of ADHD. We're all on the scale of dyslexia. We're all on a scale of you just throw something at me, and I'll say we're all on the scale of it. Yeah.
Right. Anything, everything, and anything. Absolutely.
So there's a mix of it. Yeah.
Right.
So you're so right. That's why there's no one size fits all. There are concepts that you can use, frameworks that you can use, but the way you use that framework, which is what we share in the book, will be different from how somebody else uses that framework to get into being able to connect to people. We don't want, first of all, if you're a shy person, that's great. If you're an extrovert person, that's great. I think you have to understand that just because there's someone who's out there, and just because lots of people look at them, it doesn't mean that they have great connections. There was a study done, of people, and I think it was, I can't remember how old the people were, but they asked the people, if there are two people on a boat and you needed to save one of them, which one would it be? Would it be the most famous person at school, or would it be the kind of the bookworm? Yeah. So not the popular sporty guy out there, who or sporty lady out there. And it was always the bookworm, who was the one that they were most likely to save. It wasn't always the popular person.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not like 100%, we're going to save the bookworm, but they got a higher score than the most popular person. And the reason was because that shy person, that person who didn't really get out there and stuff, they actually had really deep values, and they really cared a lot more for other people. Whereas the super handsome, super beautiful person, because people were just attracted to them because of the way they looked, they never developed that internal connection with other people, that heartfelt connection. And so people could feel it. Yeah. And that's why in the statistics, if you're someone who's focused on adding value, not your looks or something, because that's you, that's not giving value to somebody else, then you will attract people just naturally. You could be really quiet, but people will feel, yeah, Troy, he's an introvert, but there's something about him. There's something about him that I really like. And I've noticed the way that he treats the waiters and the security guard and the receptions. He's always very kind to them.
Right.
And they're always responding to him. It's not like you're the most popular person or anything, but they really like you. And they're always like, Troy, hey, dude, I saw you in reception. Hey, let me tell you a joke or whatever it is. And hey, listen, you wanna be careful. It's going to be raining today. Hey, we've got an umbrella for you. So whatever. Do you know what I mean? Not because you're a celebrity, not because you're the most popular, just because you're a nice, wonderful person, and you might be quiet about it. So that's why if I met somebody, I'd say, well, just let me have an understanding where you're coming from. Give me the various aspects, that you're at. Let's see how you can continue being you. There may be issues where you're accidentally pushing people away, For example, if you don't like yourself, you'll probably always be talking bad about yourself. You'll be in this kind of oh me kind of loop, which is an ego thing, which is like you always want to tell people why people don't like you, which is going to cause people not to like you even more, because you're just draining their energy. They're thinking, no, we told you what to do, and you're just, all you want to do is complain.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying there?
The negative self-talk loop, and then you keep fueling that fire with your own words, and when
Which
you tell
pushes
people,
other people away. And
Right.
you become what we call an asshole.
an asshole.
An asshole. You keep asking for advice, but you never take it, right? And so you just drain people because in the end they think, wow, doesn't really want to change. Look, Troy, you're my mate. Tell you what, I'm just going to listen to you, but don't ask me for advice because you're not going to take it anyway. We're going to have a, but I can see you don't really want friends. You don't really want people to engage with them. You just want to feel sorry for yourself, or the opposite. Yeah, you could be just wanting someone to be like, hey, look at me, and you go overboard, and you know, we've seen these people, and they're pushing people away because like you're not giving people any value.
Provide some type of value, even if it's, that's all it is, right? It's just giving. It's a constant give and take, and that's how I'll put it. But it's just interacting is like a dance. It's like a tango, right? You listen. Listening is very easy to do, but also very hard for some people, right? We seem to just always be caught up in whatever's operating up in the cranium area, right? Up in the laboratory. So it's always constant things taking place, and sometimes you just have to just listen and take it in and then reciprocate, and it can be that easy.
Yeah, and there's obviously something called active listening, which is very important. Yeah.
Right.
So for example, if you are a nagging person, people actually just automatically turn off. That's just your character. We love you to pieces anyway, but that's what happens in their head. They've turned off. Like you know how sometimes you could be with someone and you're with them, but in your head you're turned off. You're thinking about other stuff because they're just
right.
Right.
There's some groups that interact together healthily because of that, which I've seen, which is also interesting. They don't really interact together, but they just sort of are in their own worlds together, and that works too. And it's a very interesting thing, but it's certainly not the most common.
Yeah. I guess they would have found their tribe, as they say.
Right.
That's our tribe. But I don't know how. I mean, would they go out of their way to help one another? And that's really what you're after. People who would go out of their way to connect and work with you in your scenario. Have I not answered the question? Gosh, I'm confused.
I believe you have. I believe you did, and you did, and we'll pick up from there.
Great. Shall we go for a commercial break?
All right, you guys. So coming up after our commercial break, we're going to talk to Ben Chai some more about social magnetism. So are you changing the way they operate completely, or is it, again, we're back to the not always a cookie cutter approach, but it seems like sometimes people like to capitalize on somebody's strengths, and then sometimes people sort of say, start being somebody you're totally absolutely not that works for somebody else. It's sort of like using the cookie cutter approach. So you're working with people's strengths.
I do my best to work with their strengths, yes. I rather work with people's strengths and outsource their weaknesses. Okay, if you're not very good at this, get your friend to help you with it,
Absolutely.
If possible. Either you learn the skill or you get somebody to, it's really simple. Yeah. Or you deal with it, and it's always going to be a weakness, and you can just, say this. For example, I have a preference to work in teams, right? Now, I don't have to do that, and I will suffer from not working in teams, but I don't have to do it, and I can carry on my life, but it'll just be very stressful.
You thrive in group dynamics.
Just because I'm all over the place, and my team helps me keep focused. So, I been CEO of companies and managing directors? Yes, but I'm much better when I've got a team around me who are helping and structuring things for me.
Very nice. And so, can we talk a little bit about emotional intelligence and just how being emotionally intelligent in the workforce and just in general helps with maneuvering through, everyday situations?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm quite interested in what you're thinking here.
So, what I wanted to talk about, because again, social magnetism. So, to be socially magnetic, you have to be emotionally intelligent, right? Because it's sort of like you have to be a powerhouse with balancing a numbers game of positive reactions versus negative reactions. Because if you're making as many connections as you're trying to, right, you want to, how do you say it? You want to impact the world. You're going to have to be able to take some of the negatives with the positives as well. And that includes and sort of requires some sort of emotional intelligence.
Okay, so yes and no. So I'm pretty high up the autistic scale, which is one of the reasons why I had to learn to be sociable. And a lot of us who are very high up the autistic scale, the whole concept of emotions may or may not work with us, yeah, depending on what our skill is in that range. Remember again that we have all sorts of people dealing with their own personal issues. You could be bipolar, for example, right? So you're switching between things. So you're trying to work with who you are, and it's very hard if you're bipolar, for example, to maintain that social connection with people because you're flipping. So it accidentally alienates people. Yeah, you're not deliberately horrible or mean or anything like that. That's just what's going on you. Or if you're autistic, if you're very high up the autistic scale, that concept of emotion, just like, it's taken me a long time, not just because of that, but because of my cultural background where I wasn't hugged a lot. Yes. That this concept of emotion just doesn't work. There was a comedian, Sarah Peng, who just does this amazing comedy, and she's a Singaporean who talks about love. That's her comedy thing. But she talks about love between the Western and the Asian world, and she says like we just don't understand. You guys when like she says, I had an American boyfriend. He's saying, "Oh, I love you," and she's thinking, "Yeah, okay, prove it." So we want to see that in action. We don't say, "Oh, I love you" back. And normally, it's if somebody says, it's a very funny sketch, but I'm not a comedian, so I'm not doing this in a funny way. But essentially, she says, well, in Asia, if somebody says, "I love you," it means they want something from you. So it's like almost like, "Whoa, what do you want from me?" So that's the first thing you say, "I love you." "Oh, yeah, what do you want?" Whereas in the Western world, it's very different. So that's why I'm just saying this whole concept of emotional intelligence is intelligence about how other people are emotionally connected and how your emotional intelligence will react with theirs. From my perspective, because I'm self-diagnosed as highly autistic. I've just had to learn and watch how people interact and watch what works and what doesn't work. What I've done that doesn't work. So sometimes people think he's an idiot. Other times when I've worked it out, people say, "No, he's really nice." I remember someone who said to me, "Ben, I don't understand. I was with you on a holiday in Spain and you were like this. And I also saw you on a holiday in Cuba, and you were totally different. But over time, I learned, how to interact with those kinds of people. So it was a skill I learned by watching and then putting it into the way I am. Now, a very simple thing that many people can do, a simple method, is for you to say, look, hey, I'm a bit bipolar. I don't mean to switch between, but I'm a bit like that. So first of all, telling people your authentic self. I'm a bit autistic. I've suffered a little bit from ADHD, right? And then just say, so if my communication is a bit off, please, can you help me a little bit? Does
Right.
that make sense? And that is emotional intelligence, because now the other person knows, and if they want, they can be vulnerable a little bit to you and say, "Well, that's great because I'm a little bit ADHD too." And you know the problem, if you're out with people, you get bored. You know, you're in a business meeting and you're going to get bored, or if you're on a date, you get bored. Like you're looking at your date, but there's not that you're bored with your date, but there's other things going around all over the place. So you're getting, wow, 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 look at that.
Absolutely.
And that ruins your communication and your social magnetism. So you learn strategies. For example, if you're easily distracted and you're out at a business meeting or on a date or working with your friends, you would probably ignore all these power kind of concepts, like when you're sit in a corner, so you face everybody, you'd face the back of everybody and look directly at that person, because there's nothing to distract you around you. Does that make sense?
Coping with what you have that makes you you, and just saying, okay, if I get easily distracted, then I'm going to avoid distractions. I'm going to sit where all I can look at is the person and the wall. No, not on the opposite side where I can see the waiter and the bar and somebody just dropped the spoon, and then is she going to use the spoon, or is she going to clean the spoon or ask for a new spoon? And it just can constantly.
Exactly. And those two people over there, I think they're on a date, but I don't think he likes her. And those two people over there, I think they're going to break up. And those two are there. Yeah, exactly that.
I identify with the same thing, and I do the exact same thing.
And so that's one concept of, if you like, the emotional intelligence is you actually understanding yourself and interacting with somebody else. Now, it'd be weird if both of you are ADHD and one of you is facing the other outside. So maybe you sit together and you both face the wall.
Maybe that's what you want, though. But at the end of the day, variety is good. But sometimes everybody has, once to get back to, everybody has their own little thing, that we have to work around. I like to say you got to be adaptable and patient, and just what are you really expecting as a result from your interactions, first and foremost, and just things of that nature.
Just to finish off that concept, actually, when you are working with people, whether it's sales or a date, generally you don't want to be facing each other anyway, because you want to be on the same side of the table or side by side. I actually prefer round tables, whether it's business, dating, whatever it is. Yeah. That you're on. I just think round tables, there's no kind of you and me kind of, divide.
That's interesting. That's interesting, because you also said that you thrive in groups. You like to be with groups. So it's interesting that even with tables, you prefer a round table, because normally a round table, right, might have more people around it. So it provides room for the group to be around, versus a table where it's just you, me, and it's sort of more, it's more focused, and it's more just tunneled in, and versus being with a group. And I understand that. That's I get that. That's all really makes perfect sense.
Great. And I'm whether it's in a group or just one other person, them being on the same side of you is a very, very strong position to me, because it means that you're working together. Does that make sense? Especially if you're in a business partnership, you being on the same side of a table, it just means you're working together.
Absolutely.
There are cultural norms that also impact your social magnetism. The one that most people quote is, if you, in the Western world, if you don't look directly in somebody's eyes, they feel that maybe there's something kind of off about you. Whereas in other cultures, if you look directly in their eyes, they think that's very disrespectful.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's an obvious one, but there's lots of other little cultural issues that, if you're not aware of, will mess up your social magnetism. And again, tell them right up front, hey, listen, I'm XYZ, we're known for this. I realize it's a stereotype. If I mess up some of your cultures, please, I appreciate it if you would tell me, because I'm not here to be disrespectful to yourselves. So again,
Absolutely.
that's framing your weakness up front for them to understand what's going on. And I
Absolutely. And
say, yeah, sorry, carry on.
you, please.
No, you, please, after you.
After you, okay. So I honestly lost it. I lost what I was so engaged in what you were saying. I lost what I wanted to say.
I was very hypnotic. Woo. So yeah, just the cultural, the sometimes the religious aspects as well. You know, when I lived in Singapore, one really important aspect of my education was that we had to learn to understand every religion, because Singapore is a very multi-religious society, as is London and many cities today. But in those days, Singapore was one of the leading religious societies. So we were taught, you know, the different religions in our integrated studies. We were taught
Right.
about Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, you know, Islam, Buddhism, you know, all the different kinds of religions out there. We had to have an understanding so that we could work with and understand and connect with our brothers and sisters who were not only of different races and colors, but different religions. And just understand each other as human beings, which is, again, a really important concept of social magnetism.
Absolutely. And that's such an interesting thing because, like you said, when you're in an area where there's so much of that diversity, whether it's religious or you can go on with all that diversity, London, you have to be able to sort of know where to push, where to pull, and how to go about things in the right way, I suppose, right?
Yeah. I mean, even like, for example, many large countries, whether it's Russia or even the UK, we're a small country, but even within the country, we have different kind of groups. The people in up north are different from the south, but up north you've got the people from Manchester who have a very different perspective to the people from Leeds and in the States, even your different states, your 52 states, is it 50 or 52? Can't remember. You know, people down south are different from people up north, but even when you've got, New York and Massachusetts, is New York in Massachusetts?
They're nearby each other. They're close by.
But the people are different. The people from New Jersey are totally different from Brooklyn, and they're
right.
both in, right. So even there, you're trying to kind of think, well, how do they look and view at life, you know, and how do we look at, and how can I work with this person, because we may have different thoughts.
Right, and that's my favorite part about it. That interaction is, I really enjoy the mechanics of that and just how it works, because it works naturally in many ways sometimes. Just by what you said, like just putting it out there up front. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just putting it up front and then allowing it to just, you put it there and then we go from here.
When you get really good at social magnetism, you will be able to have two opposing thoughts in your head and become a really amazing critical thinker. So at the moment, you know, at the time of this broadcast, you know, we've been going through this pandemic, right? So we have people who have conspiracy theories and we have people who don't. Now, if you want to get really good at social magnetism, you can have both thoughts in your head and understand the conspiracy theorists and the people who don't have it. And you'll be able to see through the media for both sides, because both sides have true media and both sides have false media. And you will be able to see through that and have those two concepts. You'll be able to have lockdown and non-lockdown in your head. You'll be able to have vaccination and non-vaccination in your head. You'll be able to, our politics is very divisive. You've got pro-Trump, anti-Trump. Yeah, you've got in the UK we had pro-Tories and pro-Labour. You know, if you can hold all these concepts in your head, it makes your social magnetism with other people much, much easier. So we've seen people fall out over all these concepts. Good friends fall out over them if you can understand social magnetism, it would help you to maintain your friends in both camps. And they're not going to say, well, you're just sitting on the fence, because obviously I have my own personal perspective, but I am unwilling to share it if it's going to cause division with good friends. And I'm going to share their perspective and understand their perspective. If my friends are pro-vaccine, I will say, yeah, you're absolutely right. It certainly will reduce the spread of infection because more people are protected. If they are anti-vaccine, I would say, yeah, I totally understand your perspective. The vaccine hasn't been tested. Yeah, and I get that there's a lot of people with anxiety over it. Plus, there's a lot of people who can't have it because of allergies. So how are we going to have the two, concepts together? So totally get it. Yeah, and I still love you, bro. Say that to both sides.
Absolutely, absolutely. But like you said, you're right. You have to be able to listen to both sides of the story so that you can gather your own self-made opinion, right? You start to have your own opinions.
So I'm not pro-Obama or anti-Obama because, this is American politics. I'm in the UK. But I've seen some of his rhetorics and his talks. And when he's in his orations, when he's sharing with the public, he puts up the concepts, I've noticed, of what he doesn't agree with, but he puts it up right up there first. So he's a person who can hold two concepts in his head, two opposing, and he'll say, look, I understand why you think investing in military and defenses is so important, and this is how much we're putting into it, and I can see why you're saying that. Now, I would like to share you a different concept of how we can reduce our military expenditure and move that to XYZ components. But notice he's shared all your beliefs right up front in his it was very interesting for me to watch some of those talks.
Right. No, I understand.
Yeah,
and then that happens.
Yeah, and what he was trying to do is get both sides on in his thinking by sharing both perspectives, so that rather than arguing with him, he's already told you their arguments straight away.
So that then once he's explaining it, they can build from the facts versus the sort of emotionally fueled stuff, right? You sort of get rid of you always want to stick with
uses emotion as well, mate. But he's tried to diffuse as much of the opposing thoughts first. Anyway, I'm just we're kind of digressing a little bit. I'm just saying, if you can hold those two thoughts in your head, it's really important for your social magnetism, and then your the way you connect with people.
Absolutely, Ben. You're right about that. And so, how can somebody who doesn't have this natural skill work the muscle, develop this skill, being able to balance these two ideas? How can somebody develop this if it's not natural to them?
I think the way I've seen parents teach their kids do this, or to think critically. So if you think buying from Amazon is the best thing ever, right? Then they'll ask you, okay, I get that you're doing, so I just want to play with you a little. I want you to give me 10 benefits of buying from the local store.
10 benefits from buying the local store. You get a little bit of
from the local shop, the mom and pop shop down the road.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So you leave your house, you get some vitamin D from the sun. That's always good, right? You get some interactions with people, which is always good. We thrive off of receiving energy from people. So that's 2. You're getting some exercise, right? You're moving the body around, getting a little bit of exercise. So that's 3. At the same time, you might speak with somebody, you might get a smile, you might smile back, and that provides a dopamine boost because smiling is dopamine, right? So that's, what do we have, 4 or 5? You might pick something up that you need. So that's another one. 6. You might see things you need.
It's faster than going to Amazon because you've just bought it straight away.
Right. You might find things while you're there that you may have needed as well that you couldn't have just seen through a larger selection of arbitrary things. And you can start planning out things that you need and then developing ideas that lots of things. I mean, So let's say I'm at
helping
7.
the local economy around you, so
Yeah.
that they're profiting, so that they can spend money at some of the restaurants, which keep those restaurants going for you, because now they've got some finance. Yeah, and then if they were totally pro buying locally, you would then ask them the opposite. Okay, give me 10 benefits from buying online.
Right.
And now, so
Efficiency.
that's how we're teaching you to think.
You're socially magnetic, Ben, and you're very awesome to speak with. And I love just picking your ideas in your brain about how you see these things, because it's really awesome to, watch your TED talk and just share this with the audience. I'm really excited to share everything you have for the audience to discover and go ahead and just dive into. It's really exciting that, is this something that you would credit yourself to? Sort of, it's a self-created sort of philosophy that you're working through right now. It's still just an original philosophy of yours.
Do I have an original philosophy? Now, that's really an interesting. I don't believe anything is new. I think what we do develop is the ideas are old ideas, but they're just renewed for today's society. That's what I do think, but I don't think there's anything new under the sun. Yeah, maybe new inventions, but in terms of connecting with people and so on, I think a lot of that is encapsulated in many of our, we talked about multi-religious societies, and I think a lot of those concepts are already encapsulated in those books. I remember actually stated that I don't think I have anything new inside of me, and somebody had made a comment in my social media that saying, hey, he's admitted he doesn't have anything original. And I'm thinking, yeah, so you show me something original and I'll show you where it originally came from. So I don't think I've got a new philosophy. I've just got a different way of doing things, which a lot of people vibe with, because I'm working with them. Yeah, I'm working with who they are. The fact that they're at a level of autism, or they're at a level of ADHD, or they're amazing, just they don't have any of these high things, but they're just good people. Yeah, they call themselves like average people. I don't know what really average is, because as I said, I think we're all somewhere along that crazy scale of whatever it is. So I think if there's a new philosophy, it's just learning to work with people where they are, and understanding that there's so many different levels mentally that there are, physically, culturally, spiritually, emotionally, and
Right.
yeah, I think that's all of them. I would tick all the boxes. Anyway,
Lots of components.
Yes, absolutely. And there are some people, in the coaching world, you never ever tell people the answers. You lead them to the answer. But there are just some people who just want to know a framework straight away with some answers that they can work with. Isn't that interesting?
It is, but sometimes it's better to know that there's nobody out there who's going to save you better than you're going to save yourself, because then it's just, it's sort of pushing your demise a little bit further down the timeline. But you want to sort of be able to pull your bootstraps up and figure it all out yourself.
Yeah. What's that? How does that song go? When I was younger, so much younger than today. Do you know that one? I never needed anybody's help in any way. But
it
now,
sounds familiar.
It's a Beatles song. Anyway, it goes on. He says, "Help me if you can. I'm feeling down." And essentially, it says, when we were younger, we just thought we can work everything out ourselves. We can help ourselves out. We can fix it ourselves. But now we're so much older, we kind of understand the world works. And getting help from other people today, I think, is more important. Yeah, sure, you can save yourself. Yeah, everybody can save themselves in some way or not. But it just takes a long time. And you will go, and because you go through that long path, a bit like the vicious cycle that I went through when I was being bullied. But if I had people who could get me out of that faster, then probably, who knows, because everyone has their own journey, maybe I would be much further down the journey that I'm on than I am today. We don't know, and there's no point in looking back at the past, but
No.
just having that helping hand, just having, the number of people who've committed suicide successfully, if they had someone there with them rather than them trying to work everything out themselves, I think a lot more people would have been saved.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, and that's a very good argument for what I had provided. That's a very good point. We need people there when we're down, and when we need someone to lend a helping hand, because especially at times like those, you absolutely need your group, your people, which is why we want to have that network of people, and not only a network, but good people, right? Not just someone who's going to say, "Hey, man, yeah, pucker up, cheer up," and then sort of just let it sit and cook more. You need someone to effectively make that contact. And
preach it, Troy. Yeah, totally with you. Yeah, you don't want people to say, "Hey, look, you can grow like this if you post 10 posts a day on Instagram." Like, okay. Okay, I'll post 10 times. Oh, it doesn't work. 10 times. You're so right. You want them to, some of those people, but you also at the same time, so this is again holding those two opposing thoughts. You don't want to be an arsehole, yeah? And that's where, coming back to your point, which is so true, you want to be able to work with people, but you have to do that work yourself, which is back to your point, yeah? If you're constantly waiting for everyone to do the work for you, then you're not learning to fish.
You got to learn how to fish. You got to learn how to fish and capture the fish yourself, so that you can be the hunter of for your tribe. Right?
Hunter for your tribe. Going back to that whole hunting thing, it's like sales, which is an interesting skill to learn. There's a lot of people who they are told, look, you need to go and knock on 10 doors a day, right? So they get all the rejections from 10 doors, and then they just give up.
I think I used to knock on 200 a day when I was doing sales. 200, I think, a day it was.
Wow, Troy. Now, here's the thing. Did someone just say go and knock on 200 doors a day?
It was a number. It was operating off of a number system that seemed to be tried and true, right? So you hit 200, and you might get 10 successes. So it's just a number system, like you said. There's nothing new. There's always a map, and we were working off of the map.
Did you have someone say, Troy, come with me. I will do 20 with you. You will do the next 20. I will give you feedback. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Now, what if someone just told you, look, Troy, just go and do it? How successful would you have been?
That's funny you ask, because my first one, I sort of made that leap myself, and sort of had to do that, because sometimes you need that, because you're afraid of starting. Lots of the most difficult thing is the beginning process, and you can always train, but the only way to really do it is to make that leap. So at the same time, I understand what you're saying. You need to be prepared, because failing to prepare is preparing to fail, right? You need that sort of preparation, but I try to stay ready so I don't have to get ready. So at the time, with my specific situation, I made that leap and I was ready for it.
Okay, you have a certain strength and courage within you. A lot of other people, as you've seen in whatever you were selling, just gave up.
Yes.
10, 15 dollars. Whoa, I can't take this. But if they had seen someone go out and seen them deal with the rejections, and then just laugh it, it's all right, ma'am, really sorry to bother you, move on, yeah? They would say, oh, is that it? That's all he's done.
Right.
They've seen the leader demonstrating it to them. Come out, watch me do that. Come out with me, watch me do it, right? Now I'll come out with you, you do it, right? Very, very different. So they would have, that company would have a lot more success from my perspective.
And I'm with you. I agree with that.
Yeah, you are just, there are some people who have that internal, like, I have too much why. I don't care. I'm just going to do 200 doors. I'm going to do 500 because I need this now. You have so much why. Whereas a lot of other people, they don't have that internal strength and reason to do it. There's, I think it's in 1 Kings 5:7. This is in the Bible about a lady whose children were being sold into slavery because her husband had died, and he was terrible with looking after money, right? So now they were in huge debt. So she reached out to this guy. He was a prophet at the time. Today, who knows what he would have been called? Maybe a coach, maybe a mentor, whatever it is, maybe uncle, father. And he says, look, I want you to go and do this. And then he says, right, now we've done this. I want you to go out, knock on people's doors and sell this. Right? She didn't go and say, hey, I need to go on a sales course. I need to do this. She would have been like you, Troy. She just needed to go and do it because otherwise she would have lost her kids. And she had to learn by having people shut the door in her face, hundreds of times. But she wasn't going to quit because she needed to make that money.
Well, necessity is the mother of all creation, right? And I wish I could say I knew how to smoothly land the ship. And sometimes it's just like, you got to crash land it and then figure out how to smoothly land it while learning, right? You learn as you go because you can't always wait for that time. Sometimes that time won't come and you have to create it, or, I think you know what I'm saying.
I do. And respect for you for what you did, mate. Really. If you didn't have a mentor or coach to go out and do that, and you just went and did it, so much respect. Really?
I have a lot of respect for you as well, Ben. I have a lot of respect for you as well. So I appreciate that.
So I would have people go and look you up, actually, Troy, seriously, because you could teach so much from people, from the number of doors where people accepted your offer, and you would probably be able to teach more from the people who shut the door in their face and how you learned to deal with them over time and increase your social magnetism so that you had less doors. I bet you over time, you had less and less doors less people being angry with you for knocking on their door.
Yes. In short answer, yes. Yes.
Yeah. But over time, you had to learn that skill. And not let it be like, this is like, do you know what I mean?
You have to learn distribution of energy in a healthy way. So if you're doing 200, but the first 10 slow you down and you need a break and you're behind schedule, the next might not be as great as the first 10, but the first 10 getting those no's could have been for a reason that have nothing to do with you. So again, you have to balance that energy and distribute it in an effective manner, because it's sort of like you're operating with dynamics with people you don't know what they're doing right on the other side of the door. And
Absolutely.
so you have to keep that steam going from beginning to end, because you never know. It's sort of like with sports, right? The most exciting thing about sports is that it's never over until it's over. And so it's really exciting to know that it's not over until it's over, and you wait until that clock ends, and then you look at your work and you say, I gave it my all. That's all I can do.
Same with business. It's not over till the money's in the bank.
Boom.
Doesn't matter what they've said to you. Doesn't matter how many orders they say they're going to place with you. It's not over till the money's in the bank.
The money's in the bank.
The money's in the bank.
Ben Shai, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I would really like to get you on again in the future. For now, how can we find you on social media?
So just look me up on Ben Chai Official, or put my name in Google. Normally it'll take you to my Facebook or my LinkedIn, or just put you on any of those social medias. I reply to everybody, and obviously you've got this picture of me with the bow tie. That's the same picture on all my social media, although the bow tie color may change a tiny little bit.
Right, is that a signature, the bow tie? Are we rocking the bow tie this season?
No, I started wearing it because I'm a great Doctor Who fan, and at one stage he went through. Doctor Who, by the way, is a British sci-fi series of a very eccentric guy who travels through time and space and has different adventures. So that's really what that was about.
Nice. All right.
Troy, thank you so much for having me on your show. You really are an awesome person.
I really appreciate that, Ben. Likewise, you're really awesome as well. It's been a great pleasure to get to know you. I'm happy to call you my friend now. If I'm ever out in your area, I would love to give you a call and see what's out there. You can show me some good coffee spots or something. You know, we'll figure something out.
Yeah, I'll take you around. Show you some great coffee spots if you play chess or Scrabble.